Hello and welcome to OsChannel friends. My name is Aditya and in this vlog we are going to learn the basics of Git. So also all the commands that I'm going to type in this tutorial series, I'm going to compile them into a cheat sheet and put the link to that cheat sheet in the description below. So make sure you check it out. So now let's first start with understanding what is Git.
Let's get started.
In technical terms, Git is a distributed version control system. And what I mean by that is you can actually track versions of files using Git. So let's consider this example of software development where let's say you are developing a software and it is at version 1.1 and the code is split across multiple files. So now you make the changes to bunch of files and you arrive at version 1.2 and you find that that version 1.2 is unstable or broken and now you want to revert back to the previous stable version.
Abort the mission.
So with the help of Git, you can do that using just one single command. And by the way, the repository or the folder that you are tracking using Git is called as a Git repository, and you can put this Git repository on a central server or central Git repository server from where other people in your organization or team can download that code or clone that software code and then make their own changes to the code. So let's say Bob can work on feature X, Alice can work on feature Y, and you can work on the same project on something else all at the same time and push that code to the central Git repository server. And one of the best features that I like about Git is you can configure it in such a way that whenever a team member makes any changes to the code, other people in the team can get a notification and they can come and manually review that code to check if there are some accidental bugs being introduced or if something can be done much more efficiently. Or you can also trigger some scripts which can do some automated syntax checking for you, or you can also do some rule-based checking depending on your organization. So let's create our first Git repository, but before we do that, you need to install Git, and these are all the commands, and depending on your operating system, choose the commands and install Git. For Windows users, you can download the exe file and then install it using all the default options and then open the Git bash shell which comes with the package. For other Linux and Mac users, you can simply go to your terminal and then check using this command, which is git -- version, and if it returns you a version, that means Git has been installed successfully. So now before we go ahead and create our repository, we need to configure Git. So we first need to configure our username and email, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. So let's do this: git config space -- global space user.name, and then I'll set my name to Aditya. And similarly, I'll also go ahead and also configure my email ID, which is aditya@oschannel.com. So now, whenever I make commits to the Git repositories, it will automatically put this username and email ID inside my commits so that other people will know where to contact me and who did this commits. So let's create our first Git repository. For that, we need to create a folder. So let's create that mkdir space website. And we are actually going to create a website and track that website using Git. So let's cd into this folder, and now if I want to actually convert this folder into a Git repository, or if I want to just create a local Git repository, I need to type the command git init, and this will actually convert my website folder into a Git repository. And you can see basically it also created this .git folder which is actually hidden in Linux, so you have to use ls space -a, and you can see this folder. And this is where Git stores all the previous versions of your files in the Git repository in blob format, and also some Git repository related configuration information. So as a beginner, you should not touch this folder until and unless you know exactly what you're doing. So let's actually ignore this and maybe we can come back to it in the advanced lessons. So I'll just quickly clear my screen now that we have created our first Git repository. And now let's create the files inside this Git repository. So I'll go ahead and create the index.html file. Let me just save this. And now if I check using git status command, you can see what exactly Git is tracking. So we see we are on branch master and there are no commits yet. And we have something called as untracked files where we have our new index.html file that we just created. So before moving forward with any other commands, I want you guys to look at this diagram here. So every file in a Git repository goes through 3 phases, and the first one is the untracked phase. So whenever you create a file or delete a file or modify a file in a Git repository, it comes under this phase. And we also have the final phase, which is the commit phase. So where you actually take the snapshot of all the changes you made to the files. And between these 2 phases, there is something called as the staging phase. And only the files in the staging phase can be moved to the commit phase or can be committed basically. So first we need to move the files in the untracked phase to the staging phase using the git add command, and then move the files from the staging phase to the commit phase using the git commit command. And now you might ask, why do we really need this staging phase? Why can't we just directly commit the changes, right? So let's say you are working on two features at the same time, and the feature 1 has 4 files and the feature 2 has 4 files. So let's say you've completed working on feature 1, so you can move those 4 files to the staging phase and then run the git commit command, and it will only commit the files in the staging phase. So the feature 2 files will not get committed, or the snapshot for the feature 2 files will not be taken. So let's go ahead and quickly add our index.html file to the staging phase using the git add command, and we have git add and the name of the file, which is index.html. And now if you check using git status, you can see basically we have this index.html inside the staging phase. And now you can commit this using the git commit command, and you can type the message here basically using the -m flag. So this is where you actually type a small summary message where other people will know, reading that summary message, that what this commit contains. So let me just type adding index.html here and then hit enter. And now this change has been committed. So you can see basically using git status command that there is nothing inside this. We have the working tree clean. And to look at all the commits, you can type the command git space log. And you can see basically we have just one commit inside this repository, and this is the commit hash for that commit. So every commit has a unique commit hash, and then we have the author as Aditya and the email ID. So this is what we had set using the git config commands. So the users will know that I have committed these changes and where to contact me. And we also have the time and date of the commit. And then we have the summary message of what this commit contains. So other users will get a basic idea of what this commit contains. And if they want to see what exactly changes were made inside this commit, they can actually copy this commit hash. And let me just quickly clear the screen and show you. So you have to type this command git space show and then paste that commit hash and hit enter. And now you can see basically we created a new file here, and then we added all these lines in this commit. So the plus indicates that the line has been added, and if there is a minus sign, that means that the line has been removed from the commit. So I'll just quickly quit this. So now we have created our first commit. So now let me just go ahead and quickly add a few more files, and then I'll show you some other ways to actually move files to the staging and commit phase. So I went ahead and created a few files here. So the style.css file inside the CSS folder, and then I created this contact.html and blogs.html, and I made some changes to the index.html. So I basically added these two lines. So now you can see basically our website looks somewhat like this. So which is home page, blogs page and contact us page with the OsChannel banner and then the main content area. So now you can check using the git status command what actually Git is looking at. So we have basically this file modified, and we have added this blogs.html, contact.html and the CSS folder, and all the contents inside this CSS folder are not tracked. So we need to move all these files into the staging phase. So we'll type the command git add and then the name of the files. But if there are, let's say, hundreds of files, you can't keep on typing all the names of the files, right? So there is one other way to actually move the files to the staging phase using the -a flag, and this will move all the files in your Git repository into the staging phase. So I'll do git add and -a and hit enter. And now if you check using the git status command, you can see basically all the files are now inside the staging phase. And now you can actually go ahead and commit the changes using git commit space -m and then type the message or summary message for this commit. But since this commit contains a lot of changes, there is one other way to actually commit, and which is without using this -m flag, you can just type git commit and hit enter. And this will actually open up an editor for you. In my case, it opened Vim editor. It may open Nano editor, or you can also configure it to open up your VS Code. So this is the Vim editor. I'll just quickly go ahead and type my commit message here. So now I have typed my commit message here with some bullet points, so other people will know exactly what I'm making changes inside this commit. And I'll go ahead and quickly save and quit this file. So we have all our changes committed, and you can check using git log that we have now two commits here. So we have the first commit and we have the second commit, and this is our commit message, which is beautifully written on what all changes are there inside this commit. And if they want to check what exactly were the changes made, they can copy the hash ID, and then actually let me clear the screen and then type git space show and then the new commit hash, and basically they can see all the lines that were added inside this commit. So now we have committed some changes, and now let's move to the beautiful part of Git where we can actually revert our changes. So I'll just quickly go ahead and make some random changes to the random files here inside our Git repository, right? And now after making those random changes, you can look at the website and see basically that there is something wrong with this website, something is not properly added. And after making the changes, you can actually track what all changes you have made since the previous commit using the git diff command. And it will show basically that the previous line was looking like this and now I've made it to look like this. And same way for the other files as well. So that's using the git diff command. But let's say you didn't check this and you actually staged the changes using git add dot command. So here the git diff command won't work. So you have to use something called git diff cached, and you can see the same changes all over again using the git diff cached command. And now let's say you even forgot to check this and you actually went ahead and committed all the changes. So let's type git commit space -m and let's type a message something like faulty commit. So let's say you are making your code unstable by some random commit, unstable commit, and you actually commit this and you can check in the git log that you have actually committed all the changes, and now your website has been broken. So this looks really bad, right? So now your website is broken and you actually want to revert the changes. So in order to revert the changes, all you have to do is just look at git log and copy the commit hash of the commit that created the problems, and then type git revert and then type the commit hash and hit enter, and this will actually open up the editor for you with the default message saying that reverting faulty commit, and you can actually go ahead and save this, or you can also type out your own message here. I'll just quickly go ahead and save this using WQ enter, and now it has actually reverted all the changes. And now if you just refresh your site, you can see basically it has been fixed. So it has actually reverted all the changes in the different files that I made in my previous commit or the faulty commit. And in the git log, you can see basically it added one more commit called the revert commit of this commit, and the message is here. So till now we have learned how to create a local Git repository, how to do some basic configuration for our Git repository, and then how to stage our files, how to commit our files, and how to revert some faulty changes, or how to basically revert our commits. But all the changes that we have made, we have actually made this in the master branch, and you can check using the git status command here. It says basically we are on branch master. But when you work for an organization or a project, you don't actually make the changes in the master branch. And that's what we are going to learn in the next chapter, which is about branches. So that's all for this video, guys. If you liked my video, do hit the like button and subscribe to OsChannel for more such interesting videos. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.